creatives. Nick and Paul, you got to know. And if you don't, fairly incredible, actually. And
incredible. Incredible.
Your Italian's incredible. So these guys have been at Cannes for quite some time, way longer than I am because I'm young. And these old tarts have been here for a while. Wooly, how many years for you?
I was 95. I came as a 20-something. The creative agency in the UK that I was joint managing director, we stayed at the Column d'Or, and I said, when are we going to Cannes? They went, dear fellow, we only go to Cannes if we win. 95. It was a 2-day festival.
Yeah.
And no Americans came.
Yeah, no American games. Nick's kind of fun.
I don't know. I was actually saw Steve Latham in the hall the other day.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long I've been coming here.
But long enough not to remember.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not that long.
Yeah. And for me, it's been 15 years, and every year I come. It's about every couple of years.
Yeah.
Some thematic changes,
Yeah.
which kind of I'm excited by, but also scared.
Yeah.
And in the last couple of years, it's all been about AI, as we know. The challenge for me, already this morning, day one of Cannes, every single discussion and panel has to anchor around AI. One, its efficiencies. What does it do to help amplify creativity? And thirdly, how are we going to reach those consumers? I have a thesis, before I ask you a question, which is advertising is going to become more expensive because we're going to be blinded by so much content that isn't effectively artfully creative, that it'll create this bypass to actually get to those human connections. Do you see that as a thread line being in creative, or do you think that it's just another version of the desktop publishing scene we saw 20 years ago?
I think there will be a premium for premium.
Yeah.
But premium will come in lots of different shapes and sizes, and that's going to be really interesting. So, of course, the hygiene factor in AI is omnipresent, but what's the hero aspects to either AI or just engagement, attentive, the EQ to the IQ? I think like everyone is talking about AI transposing with IQ as opposed to the EQ that it might give. So anyway, that's a little bit of so I do agree with your hypothesis. I think that there will be an absolute massive premium for amazing shit that we can do, content and otherwise.
What do you think, Nick?
Well, I think that the question is this like desktop publishing? Because I went through that, right?
Yeah.
I think there are some things that are similar, and there are some things which are completely new, which is generally the case with these tech revolutions. The thing that is similar is that it's concertinaing the space between an idea and execution. So that was true for the desktop. It used to take me weeks to realize, get an idea out of my head and get it out into the world with analog tools. Took a long time. And actually the skill from a creative process point of view was keeping that idea in your head and then using the technology to sculpt it to a sort of low resolution version of what's in your head. Photoshop and InDesign, all those things, they collapsed so I could get 3 ideas out in a week, right? And they were high resolution. So there were creative jobs that disappeared as a result of that. Paste up, for example. Typesetting. And
storyboards.
They were creative jobs.
Yeah, they were.
And my first creative job was doing paste up, and I was good at it. And it was creative.
Yeah.
And so I think similarly, and now what generative AI does, because it synthesizes and creates assets immediately, it's concertinaed that the journey from in your head out in the world down to nothing, down to a prompt, down to drag and drop, down to pretty simple things.
So let me contextualize it in a slightly different way. So I would argue that the evolution of intelligence is happening with or without a permission.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And has been for quite some time. The fact that it has a graphical user interface now means that we're all in control.
And by the way, there's a long way to go there too.
Big time. So the revolution is going to happen in human intelligence, which is really what you're paralleling.
Yeah.
The challenge I find, so beyond all of that, if I want to, it's moved from attention to intention, I believe. So if we're part of a new economy called the intention economy, how do you think creative will cut through today? Because I will tell you the discussions that I've had, and keep me honest here, is that people are saying experiential is the new transformation. I'm like, whoa. That means, what do you mean? They're like pop-ups, real things, physical manifestation of brand. So all of this digitization is great for the noise, but for the intention and the connection will happen physically. Do you think that is still possible, or does that feel like a discussion 20 years old?
Well, I think well, listen, I mean, if you, a very simple funnel of engagement, clearly a very personal experience, a luxury experience. Luxury brands love experiential because it's all about, and they didn't think that actually e-commerce, but people are buying fucking yachts on e-commerce.
Right.
They can buy a Rolls Royce and you can buy Dior, but you know, so what it was, you know, the simple funnel was at the top, you obviously have less engagement, we have more people, obviously the lower, you know, the more immersive, let's call it, not experiential, more immersive it is. But immersive can be defined in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be a pop-up store or a physical. But it is still true, I think, that the more immersive, the longer someone spends, the more that you actually understand them, the more that you can actually layer them in the story, the message, the nuance, you know. And of course, luxury brands are great at this, you know, it's that attention to detail.
It feels a bit like a family reunion every time I come. And that's why I asked you guys how long have you been here for. Do you think, and I will say this, that I felt like Cannes last year was the festival of productivity, and I'm concerned about the creativity. Do you guys still feel like it's relevant, and shall it continue in the form it is, or will it also surprise and morph? What do you think?
With this festival? Oh, yeah. I mean, the players are going to change. It's hard for big legacy agencies to change, right? So new ones will emerge. The thing I noticed last year with the first round of generative AI breathlessness was everyone kept talking about personalization scale.
Yeah. Even Artur, he didn't talk about creativity when he did his annual report. It was personalization and scale.
And you know, so where I think personalization scale is really powerful, is actually not in advertising. I think it's service. Right?
Yeah.
Right now, I'll give you two contrasts. Right? I think this our industry is about the communal and the personal.
Yeah.
And the personal is most effective when it's my problem, and the communal is most effective when it's a story that we all share.
Yeah.
Right? And so, if I'm in a telco and I have to go down, I've got a problem with my phone, and I go down some phone tree, and I end up with a generic answer, that's incredibly frustrating. Destroys a brand for me. That's where I should be getting generative AI personalization scale. You build a brand through a common understanding of what that company is. And if all I do is lower funnel stuff, I atomize my audience so much because the lower funnels really talk more about them than the brand. I don't have a brand anymore.
Yeah.
Like when I was flying over here on a plane, and I look over and I see someone watching a movie and they're on the plane and they're crying. They're not crying because that movie was made for them.
Yeah.
They're crying because it says something about the human condition.
Yeah.
And partly your 30,000 feet in the air and your emotions
are
emotions.
Oh my God! There's this gradation between the communal and
Of
the
course,
personal.
of course.
Some of the personal
Of
stuff
course.
is lower funnel advertising, but to me, the most important part of the funnel you're talking about is the middle. Because the middle is how you understand
Yes.
and the value of a product. It clarifies the value, and by the way, the middle can also migrate to the top. That's what Steve Jobs did. It's an after that. 10,000 songs.
Completely.
Yeah.
And I'd love to build on that because I do think
He's a media guy, so he's excited.
No, I get excited. No, I remember there was actually 3 C's: marketing demand was content, contact, and context. The harmony, and it always was and always would be. It's actually really difficult getting it because we've been bifurcated.
Right.
But I think it's like now message, messenger, medium, and machine, the machines that drive it. So I've been developing over time, started at Columbia University, periodic table of contents. So obviously we have this, if you think of the periodic table that everything in this universe was created by, well, how about our story world is like the universe, and what you have is different techniques, you have different machines now, let's say, generative or otherwise, and it's this complex, but it makes it so interesting. It's like this incredible game of science in your story world, but it is now about what technique you use at what point and what emotion or rational are you trying to. And to finish it, I love the broadcast versus a personal, but the task of communication. I mean, there are so many brands where you want a private message, but there are so many brands where you want to celebrate culture.
Yeah.
And there are, and behind every rational, we know this from science, behind every rational decision is a deep-rooted emotional decision.
Yeah.
You know,
And
and that
liberation.
science will tell you that. And yet, the ones here, but I will tell you to finally say, there are a lot of people, 50% of the people here don't give a shit about creative.
Amen.
Because
Oh, you
they're...
think it's
So that's
small.
they're the great unwashed. No, look, you know, it's you know, all I'd say is that we have to do a better job of explaining a more complex definition of creativity. You do an amazing job, Mister. Mister, no, you do, and I think that's what should be a big outcome of the festival.
Yeah, that's what it should be.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the
Yeah.
answer. We're going to
No.
make the festival better because we're going to go creativity.
No, at scale.
That's good.
That's good. And personalised.
Yeah.
With AI.
Yeah. Given away for free for media.
Thank you, lads. What a blessing.
That's right.
Okay. Cheers. Thank you.
At the cheapest cost, 1,000.